My name is Taylor Ellis, 29, founder and CEO of Apex Growth Fund in Dallas, Texas. 5 years ago, at a family dinner in our Plano home, my parents looked me straight in the eye and said, "You're not cut out for business, just marry someone wealthy." That night, I walked out mid-meal and didn't look back. Now I own the entire BBQ chain they built from the ground up since I was 8 years old. The same business they swore I'd never understand. Life doesn't just have a sense of humor, it has a receipt. The road from being written off as the clueless daughter to signing the papers that put their company under my name wasn't smooth. It was full of slammed doors, cut-off allowances, and nights I wasn't sure I'd make rent. But every time someone told me I couldn't, it only made me dig in harder. Before I show you exactly how I turned their dismissal into my takeover, drop a comment below. If you've ever been told you're not good enough by the people who should believe in you most, and hit that subscribe button if you're ready to watch someone prove them wrong, one deal at a time. By the time I turned 8, the smell of hickory smoke had already soaked into every piece of clothing I owned. My parents, Nancy Ellis and Paul Ellis, had just opened the first Brooks Family BBQ location on a busy corner in Plano, Texas. The place was tiny, maybe 20 tables, but it felt like the center of the universe on weekends. I spent afternoons after school wiping down sticky booths, refilling sauce bottles, and scribbling customer orders on green duplicate pads. Dad showed me how to tally the day's cash in a spiral notebook, teaching me to separate 20s from 10s without even looking. Mom handled the kitchen line, barking orders at the pitmaster while flipping brisket like it was second nature. They moved fast, talked faster, and never once asked if I wanted to be there. It was just what Ellis kids did. 5 years later, at 13, I started seeing gaps in the system. The line for lemonade on hot Saturday afternoons stretched past the parking lot, but we only sold it from a cooler inside. I baked oatmeal raisin cookies at home, packed them in wax paper, and set up a folding table right outside the front door with a hand-painted sign that read, "Fresh cookies and ice-cold lemonade, $1 each." Customers loved it. By closing time, I had sold 72 cookies and 40 cups, pocketing $85 after supplies. I kept a separate notebook for my stand, tracking costs for sugar, lemons, and butter down to the penny. When I showed Dad the numbers, proud that I'd turned $20 of ingredients into profit, he glanced at the page and chuckled. "Cute side hustle, kiddo, but don't get any big ideas. This is just play money." High school brought bigger crowds and bigger opportunities. The Frisco Fair rolled into town every spring, drawing thousands for rides, games, and food stalls. At 18, during my senior year, I pitched the idea of a Brooks Family BBQ pop-up booth to my parents over breakfast. I had spreadsheets ready, projected foot traffic, ingredient costs for pulled pork sliders, rental fees for the tent, even a mock-up menu with pricing that would cover expenses and leave a 20% margin. Mom set her coffee down and shook her head before I finished. "We're not turning our name into a carnival gimmick, Taylor. Stick to helping in the restaurant." Dad added, "People come to us for consistency, not experiments. You'd just embarrass the brand." I didn't argue. Instead, I used the $300 I'd saved from birthday cash and weekend tips, rented a 10 by 10 space under my own name, and built the stall myself with borrowed tables and a borrowed smoker. Gavin Ellis, my brother, helped me load supplies, but warned, "Don't expect Mom and Dad to cheer you on. They hate change." The fair lasted 2 days. We sold out of sliders by 4 p.m. Both afternoons pulled in $2,400 in revenue and walked away with $900 profit after every expense. Customers raved about the sauce, asked for business cards, even suggested we open a food truck. Sunday night, I laid the cash and receipts on the kitchen table at home, waiting for some sign of approval. Mom counted the bills, folded them neatly, and slid the stack into the restaurant's deposit bag without a word. Dad finally spoke. "Nice effort, but don't do it again. We have a reputation to protect, and pop-ups make us look cheap." No praise, no questions about how I'd sourced the meat cheaper or negotiated with the fair organizers. Just a warning not to tarnish the family name I'd spent a decade helping build. College applications arrived the summer after graduation. I had my heart set on the University of Texas at Austin, drawn to their business program and the campus buzz that promised real-world connections. Acceptance letters came in along with a partial scholarship that covered half the tuition. Excited, I laid everything out on the dining room table one evening, showing Mom and Dad the numbers: in-state rates, dorm options, even a part-time job plan at a campus cafe to bridge the gap. Mom scanned the pages and pushed them back. Too expensive, Taylor. Dallas College has full-ride scholarships for local kids like you. Why throw money at Austin when you can stay close and save us the headache? Dad nodded in agreement. We're not bankrolling some fancy degree. Community college first, prove you can handle it, then maybe transfer. Reluctantly, I enrolled at Dallas College, securing a merit scholarship that wiped out tuition and books. The campus sat right in the heart of the city, a short commute from Plano on crowded highways. Classes started small, intimate lecture halls where professors knew your name by week 2. In my introductory finance course, I met Dr. Lynn Harper, a sharp-eyed instructor with years in private equity under her belt. She noticed my habit of staying late to rework problem sets, asking pointed questions about valuation models that went beyond the syllabus. One afternoon, she pulled me aside after class. You think like an investor, not just a student. Ever considered interning at a fund? I admitted I hadn't, but the idea lit something up. Dr. Harper made a call that same week, connecting me with a boutique investment firm downtown called Oakwood Capital. They managed portfolios for mid-sized companies, nothing glamorous but real money on the line. The internship was unpaid at first, 20 hours a week around my class schedule. I jumped in analyzing balance sheets in a cubicle that smelled like old coffee, learning to spot red flags in cash flow statements. Within a month, the partners offered to bump it to paid $10 an hour on the condition I commit to 40 hours total. That meant early mornings before lectures and late nights reconciling data. I rearranged my timetable, dropping electives to free up blocks. Word got back to my parents through Gavin, who still dropped by the restaurant on weekends. One Friday evening, I came home to find my allowance envelope missing from its usual spot on the fridge. Mom confronted me in the kitchen. 60 hours a week on school and some internship. You're wasting time on dreams that won't pay off. We're cutting the monthly check, focus on graduating without distractions. Dad stood behind her, arms crossed. We told you community college was practical. Don't make us regret pushing for those scholarships. The cut stung. $200 a month had covered gas, groceries, and the occasional coffee run with classmates. Now I moved into the dorms full-time, a cramped double room with a roommate who blasted music until midnight. Meals shrank to instant ramen packs bought in bulk from the campus store, flavored with whatever hot sauce I could snag from free samples. I budgeted every penny from the internship paycheck, rent, split transit pass, laundry quarters. Sleep became a luxury, snatched in 2-hour bursts between shifts. Dr. Harper checked in regularly, slipping me extra data sets to practice on explaining term sheets over quick lunches in her office. This grind builds character, she said. Funds don't hire quitters. Second year ramped up the pressure. Oakwood let me lead a due diligence project on a local logistics company seeking expansion capital. I pored over contracts until my eyes burned, drafting memos that influenced whether we invested or walked away. The partners started including me in client calls, letting me present findings on revenue projections. My GPA climbed to a perfect 4.0, despite the load-earning Dean's List honors each semester. Classmates envied the hands-on experience, but few understood the trade-offs. No spring breaks in South Padre, no weekend parties, just spreadsheets and survival. By graduation, I had compiled a portfolio of deals. I'd touched recommendations from Oakwood's managing director and a clear vision of what private equity demanded. Dr. Harper handed me my cap and gown with a firm handshake. You've got the tools now. Go build something. The ceremony felt surreal, walking across the stage in a sea of black robes, knowing every late night had led here. Thanksgiving break brought me back to Plano for the first time in months. I had just turned 24, fresh off graduation and juggling job interviews in Dallas, while crashing on a friend's couch to save cash. The house smelled like smoked turkey and pecan pie when I walked in, the same familiar chaos of extended family milling around the living room. Mom had set the long oak table with her good plates candles flickering under the chandelier. Dad manned the carving station slicing brisket with precision, while Gavin passed around bowls of mac and cheese. Everyone settled into their seats, plates piled high, conversations overlapping about football scores and neighborhood gossip. I figured the evening would stay light, a brief truce from the usual tension. Instead, halfway through the main course, Dad cleared his throat and steered the talk toward my future. So, Taylor, any solid offers yet? Or are you still chasing those finance pipe dreams? Mom jumped in before I could answer. We've been thinking. With your looks and our connections, you could meet someone established, maybe one of the supplier's sons. Stability matters more than titles. Gavin smirked across the table fork, paused midair. Yeah, sis. Why grind when you can marry up? Business isn't for everyone. Their words landed like a coordinated punch. I set my knife down, heat rising in my chest. I just graduated top of my class and turned at a real fund, and you're telling me to give up and play housewife. Mom waved a hand dismissively. Don't twist it. We're being realistic. You're not cut out for the cutthroat world. Marry someone wealthy, let him handle the pressure. Dad nodded firmly. Exactly. We built this from nothing. Trust us, it's not your path. Gavin chimed in last, almost casual. Come on, it's not an insult. Just facts. The room went quiet, relatives shifting uncomfortably in their chairs. I pushed back from the table chair, scraping loud against the hardwood. Facts. You've dismissed every idea I've had since I was a kid. I'm done proving myself to people who won't see it. Mom reached out. Sit down, you're overreacting. But I was already grabbing my keys from the hook by the door. Dad called after me. Running away won't change anything. I didn't respond, just stepped into the cool November air and drove straight back to Dallas. That night marked the start of silence. I blocked their numbers on my phone, routed any necessary communication through a shared family email for tax documents or insurance updates. Holidays came and went with short, neutral texts from my end. Merry Christmas, nothing more. No invitations accepted. Gavin tried once, sending a lengthy message about how I was tearing the family apart, but I left it on read. Work consumed my days, networking events and pitch meetings filling the void where family obligations used to sit. Months turned into a full year without setting foot in Plano. Mom forwarded birthday cards through the mail, generic Hallmark ones with a check inside that I deposited without thanks. Dad emailed quarterly about restaurant expansions, fishing for advice he never took when I offered it freely years earlier. I replied with bullet points on efficiency, then archived the thread. Gavin's updates dwindled to occasional social media tags. I ignored his posts, boasting about new menu launches at the Frisco location. By the second Thanksgiving, the pattern solidified. I spent the day volunteering at a Dallas shelter, serving plates to strangers who expressed genuine gratitude. Their texts arrived like clockwork: dinner at 6, plenty of room, and I responded with a simple, busy, happy holidays. No explanations, no arguments. The third year brought the same ritual, my inbox holding unread invitations, while I built spreadsheets for potential investments late into the night. Distance created clarity. Every ignored call reinforced the boundary I'd drawn that evening. Work emails stayed professional, clipped responses to questions about health insurance or vehicle registrations. Holiday messages remained surface-level emojis, replacing any real sentiment. 3 years passed in this controlled detachment, each milestone in my career a quiet rebuttal to the words spoken over mashed potatoes and gravy. 2 years into the silence, an opportunity knocked. I had connected with Brooke Lane at a startup mixer in downtown Dallas, where she shared her vision for a growth fund targeting underserved Texas businesses. We clicked over shared frustrations with traditional venture capital gatekeepers deciding to partner up and launch Apex Growth Fund from a cramped co-working space off Main Street. The office consisted of 2 desks, a whiteboard covered in scribbled cap tables, and a coffee machine that sputtered more than it brewed. We bootstrapped with personal savings, my internship nest egg, and her freelance consulting fees, filing paperwork to become an official LLC before the end of the quarter. Early deals came slow. We cold emailed founders, attended pitch nights at local incubators, and refined our thesis on investing in scalable food and logistics ventures. Our first commitment was $50,000 into a Dallas-based meal prep service, secured after weeks of due diligence and late-night model revisions. Brooke handled legal structuring while I built financial projections that accounted for supply chain fluctuations. Revenue trickled in from management fees, barely covering rent and utilities. We celebrated small wins with takeout tacos toasting to the day when carried interest would finally kick in. 18 months in reality hit hard. Pipeline dried up amid rising interest rates. Potential portfolio companies delayed rounds, and our burn rate outpaced inflows. Bank statements showed less than $5,000 left, enough for one more payroll and a final utility bill. We skipped salaries, surviving on instant noodles heated in the office microwave, flavors rotating between chicken and beef to break the monotony. Brooke suggested pivoting to advisory services for quick cash, but I pushed to stay the course, sending updated decks to every contact in my network. Sleep evaporated, replaced by endless revisions and investor calls that ended in polite rejections. Derek Sullivan entered the picture during a last-ditch demo day at a tech accelerator. He was a serial entrepreneur who had sold his software company for 9 figures and now angel invested in early-stage funds. I pitched Apex from the stage, highlighting our disciplined approach and the meal prep exit that returned 1.5 times capital in under a year. Afterward, he lingered by the refreshment table, asking pointed questions about our failure rate tolerance and follow-on strategy. Impressed by the data-backed responses despite our lean operation, he requested a private meeting the following week. We met at his sleek office overlooking the Trinity River, presenting a turnaround plan that included cost cuts and a sharpened focus on recession-resistant sectors. Derek listened intently, flipping through our portfolio summaries. "You two are scrappy," he said. "Most would have folded by now." After a pause, he committed to leading a $2 million seed round, structured as convertible notes with a generous valuation cap. The wire hit our account 3 days later, breathing life into Apex and allowing us to hire a junior analyst and upgrade to proper accounting software. Gavin caught wind of the infusion through mutual acquaintances in the restaurant supply chain. He managed the Frisco Brooks Family BBQ location full-time, now overseeing inventory and staff schedules. One evening, my phone buzzed with a rare text from him. "Heard you landed big money. Need a hand with anything." I saw it for what it was. An opening to bridge the gap, perhaps pull family strings for catering deals or vendor discounts. Instead of jumping, I replied, asking if he could connect us with their meat purveyor for better terms on bulk brisket for portfolio companies. His response came quick. "Sorry, sis. Contracts are locked with Dad's guys. Can't mix business. No follow-up, no alternative suggestions. Just a digital door slammed shut." The rejection fueled focus. With Derek's capital, we closed 3 more investments in quick succession: a logistics SaaS platform, a craft beverage distributor, and an e-commerce fulfillment center. Team meetings shifted from survival mode to growth strategies, mapping out a 5-year roadmap that projected tenfold returns. Brooke and I divided responsibilities. She led investor relations. I dove into operations oversight. Derek joined quarterly board calls, offering insights from his exit but never micromanaging. Apex began appearing on local fund lists, invitations to speak at conferences, replacing the desperate outreach of months prior. A late-night email changed everything. It came from Carol Bates, the longtime accountant who had managed Brooks Family BBQ's books since the first location opened. The subject line read, "Urgent, call me." I dialed immediately, heart pounding, as her voice cracked over the line. "Taylor. The chain is drowning. 5 stores owe the bank $2 million, and the Plano house is set for foreclosure in 60 days if nothing changes." She explained how expansion from 2 to 5 outlets in 3 years had stretched cash flow thin, compounded by meat prices jumping 40% without corresponding menu adjustments or staff reductions. Mom and Dad had refinanced the family home twice to cover payroll gaps, betting on volume that never materialized. I booked the first flight to Dallas the next morning, landing at DFW and renting a car to drive straight to a neutral coffee shop near the original Plano site. Carol met me with a thick folder of financials, profit and loss statements showing negative margins for 18 consecutive months, vendor invoices piling up, and bank notices demanding immediate repayment. I spent the afternoon cross-referencing supplier contracts and employee rosters, spotting inefficiencies like premium cuts, ordered without bulk discounts, and overtime hours ballooning during slow seasons. By evening, the picture was clear, salvageable with aggressive restructuring, but not under current leadership. 2 days later, I scheduled a meeting at a downtown law firm, neutral ground, with no family ties. Mom and Dad arrived, looking worn eyes darting between the polished conference table and the stack of documents I'd prepared. Gavin tagged along but stayed silent in the corner. I laid out the offer without preamble. Apex would acquire 100% of Brooks Family BBQ for $1 million, cash assume all $2 million in bank debt, and retain the flagship Plano store as a historical landmark under Apex management. The deal valued the chain at roughly $3 million on paper, but distressed assets commanded discounts. "This wipes your slate clean," I said. "No more foreclosure threats. No personal guarantees hanging over the house." Mom leaned forward, voice trembling. "$1 million feels low. Can't you let us keep 10% equity? Something for retirement, a small income stream," Dad added quietly. "We poured our lives into this. A stake would mean security." I held firm. "This is business, not charity. 10% ties my hands on turnaround decisions and Apex answers to investors now." Carol shifted uncomfortably, but stayed out of it. Gavin finally spoke. "You're taking everything we built." I met his gaze. "I'm saving what's left. Sign or the bank takes the house next month." They signed after an hour of hushed side conversations with their attorney. The closing happened the same afternoon, wires transferred, liens, released, ownership transferred to Apex Growth Fund. I immediately relieved Mom of CEO duties and Dad of COO responsibilities, effective upon signature. New general managers from Apex's portfolio network assumed control of daily operations with transition plans emailed to staff by close of business. The original Plano location kept its name on the sign for branding continuity, but menu testing and supplier audits began the following week. As they gathered their personal items from the back office, I pulled Mom and Dad aside one last time. "I'll set up a monthly stipend, $3,000, routed through the law firm. It covers utilities, groceries, health premiums. Enough to live without worry, but no direct contact." "Don't call me." Mom's eyes welled up. "We're still family." I shook my head. "Family doesn't mean ownership. This is the line." Dad nodded slowly, accepting the terms without protest. Rebranding kicked off immediately. We renamed the entity Apex BBQ Ventures, launching a full overhaul, streamlined menu focusing on high-margin items, renegotiated contracts, locking in meat prices for 12 months, and a digital marketing push targeting lunch crowds via app-based loyalty programs. Brooke oversaw creative assets while Derek reviewed capital allocation for remodels. Within 30 days, foot traffic at test locations rose 15%, early validation that data-driven changes could reverse the bleed. 2 years passed quickly. Apex BBQ Ventures had expanded to 10 locations across Plano, Frisco, 3 in Dallas, and 2 new outposts in Austin, each site renovated with modern POS systems and energy-efficient smokers. Revenue climbed 70% over the 2-year period, driven by disciplined cost controls and targeted social media campaigns that highlighted signature brisket sandwiches. Profit reached $2 million after taxes, sufficient to distribute solid returns to Derek and position the fund for a potential Series A round. Brooke led hiring for a centralized marketing team, while I focused on supplier partnerships that locked in protein costs below market rates. Staff morale soared under performance bonuses tied to customer satisfaction scores, turnover dropping to industry lows. Mom and Dad retained the Plano house thanks to the $3,000 monthly wire routed through the law firm. The amount covered mortgage payments, utilities, groceries from bulk warehouse clubs, and premium health insurance plans that kept routine checkups affordable. They never missed a deposit, statements arriving like clockwork on the first of each month. No visits occurred, no phone calls exchanged, just the quiet transfer that prevented foreclosure and maintained basic dignity. Mom took up gardening in the backyard, tending tomato plants that yielded enough for neighborhood swaps. Dad joined a senior walking group at the local park, logging miles each morning before the Texas heat set in. Gavin faced a harsher adjustment. Relieved of his manager role during the transition, he collected unemployment for 4 months while submitting resumes to every restaurant chain in North Texas. Rejections piled up, citing overqualification or lack of recent corporate experience. He eventually signed on as a DoorDash driver in Frisco, navigating suburban streets in a compact sedan, delivering orders during peak dinner hours. Rent for a 1-bedroom apartment consumed most earnings, leaving little for savings or outings. Weekends, once filled with inventory counts, now involved optimizing routes on the app to maximize tips from contactless drop-offs. An email forwarded by the attorney landed in my inbox mid-quarter. It originated from Mom, typed in careful sentences. "The money helps more than you know. We're grateful, but we miss you. Hope work treats you well." Attached was a photo of the house exterior, porch light glowing against dusk. I read it twice, fingers hovering over the keyboard before closing the tab without reply. The boundary held firm, no explanations, no softening. Brooke noticed my distraction during a strategy session and asked gently if everything was okay. I nodded, redirecting to expansion metrics for the Austin sites. Reflecting on the arc, proving myself never required total abandonment. I provided a safety net that ensured survival without enabling dependency, a calculated distance that protected both sides. The stipend represented responsibility, not reconciliation. It honored the roof that sheltered my childhood, while acknowledging irreparable cracks in trust. Gavin's path remained his own. I offered no bailout, no introductions to Apex vendors. His choices post-acquisition shaped his reality, a consequence unsoftened by sibling ties. This journey taught a broader truth. Success can coexist with selective compassion. Boundaries aren't walls of cruelty, but frameworks for self-preservation. To anyone dismissed by those closest, remember that validation comes from action, not approval. Build your table, set your terms, and extend help only where it aligns with your peace. Thank you for staying through every twist of this story. Your time means the world. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway or a moment that hit home. I read everyone. If this resonated, share it with someone who needs the reminder that their worth isn't defined by doubters. See you in the next one.